My name is Liam, and for 10 years, I believed I had a storybook life. I was married to Elena, a woman whose beauty was only surpassed by the sharp, ambitious glint in her emerald eyes. We were the couple that friends envied, the one that hosted the best holiday parties, and whose joint achievements, my architecture firm, her meteoric rise in corporate law, seemed to paint a perfect portrait of modern success. But a portrait is static. Life is not. The first crack appeared 6 months ago, so small I convinced myself it was a trick of the light. It was a Thursday. I was working late, finalizing the blueprints for a new downtown library, a project I was deeply passionate about. I called Elena to say I'd be another hour. "Don't rush on my account," she'd said, her voice smooth as aged whiskey. "I've got a mountain of discovery briefs to get through. Might be a late one for me, too." "Okay, love you." You too." Click. It was the a non-committal hum where there used to be a "love you too." I dismissed it. She was tired. Work was brutal. It was nothing. But the cracks multiplied. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, was now a phantom limb, always in her hand. Always face down. She'd developed a sudden, intense interest in girls' nights that stretched later and later. The passion in our bedroom, once a warm and familiar fire, banked to a low smolder, then to cold ash. When I tried to initiate, she'd flinch, a barely perceptible recoil, before offering a tired excuse. "I'm just exhausted, Liam. The partners are riding us so hard." My sister-in-law Clara noticed before I did. Or maybe she just had the courage to say it out loud. Clara is Elena's younger sister by 4 years. Where Elena is all sharp angles and polished mahogany, Clara is soft curves and warm sunlight. She's an artist, a painter who sees the world in shades and textures the rest of us miss. After my disastrous attempt to cook a romantic dinner that ended with me ordering takeout, Clara was over, helping me scrub a burned pan. "You know," she said, her hands deep in sudsy water, "Elena's been acting weird. She's just stressed. Big case." The words were automatic, a shield I didn't realize I was holding. Clara shot me a look. Not a sisterly look, but something more searching, more concerned. "Liam, she's my sister. I know her. This isn't stress, this is distance. She's not here even when she's here." Clara was always around. At first I thought it was just family loyalty. After our mom passed, she'd been a fixture, a comforting presence. But over the last few months, her visits had intensified. She'd show up with groceries, offer to help me with house projects, sit with me while I sketched, just reading a book in the corner of my office. Her presence was a balm, a quiet counterpoint to Elena's frantic, absent energy. I valued her friendship immensely. There's friendship in standing up for someone, but then there's a sister who practically glues herself to you. And Clara was, undeniably, glued. "She's just busy," I repeated, but the shield was heavy now. Clara dried her hands and walked over to me, placing a warm hand on my arm. Her touch was electric, but in a comforting, grounding way, not the jolt of a spark. "You deserve someone who sees you, Liam, really sees you. Not just as the backdrop to their own life." I looked into her eyes, the color of warm honey, and for a fleeting, terrifying second, I saw everything I was missing. I quickly looked away, back at my blueprints. "She's my wife, Clara." "I know," she whispered, and the sadness in her voice wasn't for herself. It was for me. The final crack was a chasm. My firm had just won a major award and I wanted to celebrate. Just the two of us. A secluded cabin in the woods I'd found online. Romantic, rustic, perfect. A cabin? Elena's nose wrinkled slightly as she scrolled through her phone. "For a whole weekend? Liam, that's rustic. You know I'm not really a roughing it type. Besides, I have that networking gala on Saturday." "It's not roughing it, it's a luxury cabin, hot tub, fireplace, the works, and you never have to go to the gala, skip it, for me." I was pleading and I hated the sound of it. She finally looked up, her eyes flicking over me with a detached assessment that felt colder than any winter in those woods. "Sweetheart, I can't just skip it. These are important connections." She stood, kissed my cheek without any warmth, and walked out of the room. As the door clicked shut behind her, I felt a profound, chilling loneliness settle into my bones. I wasn't her partner. I was an accessory, an achievement on her resume, a comfortable base of operations, and the realization that Clara would have said yes in a heartbeat, would have probably packed my bags for me, hit me with the force of a physical blow. But Clara wasn't my wife. She's not into me, I told myself firmly. She's just abandoning her sister to go to a secluded cabin in the woods with me because she's a good person. The lie was hollow, and it echoed in the silence she left behind. The full-blown collapse happened on a Tuesday, a rainy, miserable Tuesday that seemed to weep in sympathy with the state of my marriage before I even knew the full truth. I'd come home early, feeling a wave of nausea that I blamed on bad sushi. I just wanted to lie down. The house was silent, cloaked in the gray afternoon light. I went to our bedroom, kicked off my shoes, and was about to collapse onto the bed when I saw it. Her iPad. It was on her nightstand, screen glowing. Elena was meticulous, but in a rush that morning, she'd left it unlocked on her email. I wasn't a snoop. I never had been. Trust was the bedrock of our relationship, but a lifetime of and flinches and cold shoulders had eroded that bedrock to sand, and my foot was on shaky ground. I picked it up. The email on top was from a contact saved as M. Vance. The subject line was a single word, Tuesday. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I opened it. The email was short, clinical. My place, 7 p.m., usual, don't be late, M. Usual. The word was a branding iron on my soul. This wasn't a first, this was a routine. I shouldn't have scrolled, but I was a man watching his house burn down, unable to look away from the flames. I went into her sent folder. I found her reply, sent at 7:03 that very morning. Can't wait. Last night was perfect. I love the way your hands feel on me. Need more. E. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the nightstand, my knuckles white. 10 years. 10 years of my life. My love, my trust, my future. All of it was just kindling for this bonfire. My thumb, moving of its own accord, scrolled further. I found the history. Months of it. A treasure trove of betrayal. They weren't just emails, they were novellas of deception. They talked about hotels, about the times she'd told me she was at a work retreat, about the long nights at the office. There were photos, not explicit, but intimate. Her, laughing in a restaurant I'd never been to. A picture of a sunset from a high-rise apartment. His apartment. And the messages. God. The messages. They detailed a level of passion, of raw, unadulterated desire, that she had denied me for years. They were filled with promises and fantasies. It was all there, a parallel life, vivid and real, existing just beneath the surface of the one we shared. I read one where she complained about me. Liam is so oblivious, he just sketches in his office all night. He doesn't even see me anymore. The projection was so staggering, so utterly delusional, that a choked laugh escaped my throat. I didn't see her. I was the one she was hiding from. Another, from him. When are you going to leave the architect and be with me full time? Her reply. Patience, my love. It's complicated. His firm just won that award. The profile is good for my image at the firm. Once I make partner, it'll be easier to untangle the finances. I was a stepping stone. A goddamn tax write-off until her real life could begin. A cold, unnatural calm settled over me. The nausea was gone, replaced by a terrifying clarity. I wasn't sad. I wasn't heartbroken. I was empty, and into that emptiness poured a pure, incandescent rage. It wasn't a hot, screaming fury. It was cold, logical, methodical. My mind, an architect's mind trained to find structural weaknesses and elegant solutions, started to build. She was a lawyer, or soon-to-be partner. Her life was built on reputation, on the perception of impeccable judgment and moral authority. This affair wasn't just a betrayal of me, it was a time bomb under her entire career. She traded in secrets, in the delicate balance of information. What if her most damaging secret was suddenly, publicly, irrevocably not a secret, leaking their messages? The thought was a whisper at first, then a roar. It was the perfect revenge, surgical, devastating. It wouldn't just hurt her, it would expose her. It would show the world, her partners, her precious colleagues, the real Elena, the liar, the cheat, the woman who wrote, "I don't care if you're writing him right now, get the fuck home," to a man who wasn't her husband. But I had to be smart. I was dealing with a lawyer, If I just posted them, I'd be wide open. She'd sue me for everything. I had to be a ghost, untraceable. I didn't take the iPad. I memorized his email address. M. Vance. I noted the timestamps, the details, then I gently placed it back exactly as I'd found it. I left the bedroom, walked into my office and sat in the dark for an hour, letting the plan crystallize. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. So slammed. Don't wait up. I stared at the heart emoji. A little red lie. My fingers typed a reply. Okay, be safe. I was safe. I was the safest I'd been in months. I was a bomb, set to a timer of my own choosing. I waited 3 days, 3 days of playing the oblivious husband, of making her breakfast while mentally cataloging her lies, of watching her get dressed for work in outfits I now knew were for him. It was the hardest acting I've ever done, but the rage was fuel. I used that time to build my digital ghost, a burner laptop, bought with cash from a pawn shop in a different part of the city, a VPN that routed my connection through 3 different countries, a brand new anonymous email address. I meticulously documented everything. Every email, every photo was saved to an encrypted drive. This wasn't just ammunition, it was an archive of my liberation. On the 3rd night, she came home at a reasonable hour, a Friday. She was actually humming, happy, probably because she had a whole weekend of M. Vance ahead of her. She walked into the living room where I was sitting, a glass of scotch in my hand, the room lit only by the fireplace. I'd made sure Claire was conveniently busy for the weekend. I needed this stage to myself. Hey you, she said, tossing her bag on the couch. Early night. Thought we could order in. Sit down, Elena. My voice was level, calm. It was the voice I used when presenting a design flaw to a difficult client. She paused, her smile faltering. What's wrong? You look intense. Sit. Down. She sat, a flicker of irritation crossing her face. Okay, you're being weird. What is it? I took a slow sip of my scotch, letting the silence stretch. I watched the firelight dance in her confused emerald eyes. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out a single sheet of paper. I'd printed one email. The one where she talked about my firm's award and untangling the finances. I held it out to her. She took it, her brow furrowed. As she read, the color drained from her face. It was a beautiful, horrifying thing to witness. The confident mask crumbled, revealing the panicked, ugly truth beneath. Liam, she started, her voice a dry rasp. I can explain. Please, I said, leaning forward, my eyes locking onto hers. Explain. Explain to me why my wife, the woman I have loved for a decade, writes to another man that I'm good for her image. Explain to me why, for 6 months, you've been lying to me. Explain to me why you flinched when I touched you. Tears welled in her eyes. Perfect, practiced tears. It was a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. It's you I love. It's always been you. He meant nothing. It was just physical, a release from the pressure. The emails say otherwise. You seem to love the way his hands felt on you. That sounded pretty meaningful. Her face went white again. You read my emails? You went through my private things? Yes, I said, and my voice was steel. I did, and I'm so goddamn glad I did. You are a lawyer's wet dream, you know that? All that evidence just sitting there. You think you're so smart, but you left a trail a mile wide. Liam, please. The tears were flowing freely now, but they looked like acid on her cheeks. I'll end it. I'll never see him again. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. For us. There is no us, Elena. There hasn't been for a long time. You killed it. One at a time. She tried a different tactic, a sliver of anger. And what were you going to do? Sulk in your office and draw your little pictures? You were never present, Liam. You never paid attention to what I needed. The audacity was breathtaking. I laughed, a short, sharp, ugly sound. I paid attention to you for 10 years. I just didn't know I was paying attention to a performance. You want to blame me? Fine. Blame me. It doesn't change the facts. She stood up, trying to regain some control, some lawyerly composure. So what now? You want a divorce? Fine. We'll get lawyers. We'll be civil. I stood up too, towering over her. I wasn't angry anymore. I was utterly, completely done. Oh, we'll get a divorce, but it's not going to be the quiet, dignified parting you're imagining. You wanted to build your career on a lie. Let's see how high it can stand when the foundation is gone. Her eyes widened in genuine terror. What does that mean? What are you going to do? I walked towards the stairs, pausing at the bottom. I turned and looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I saw her clearly. Not the woman I loved, but the woman she always was, small, vain, cruel. Sweetheart, I said, my voice dripping with a finality that felt like stepping out of a cold shower and into the sun. I am never touching you again. Don't wait up. I left her standing there in the living room, the firelight casting long, dancing shadows around her. I went to my office, locked the door, and opened my laptop. I wasn't just a ghost anymore. I was a god. The website was simple, a clean white background with black text. I titled it, The Price of Ambition. I uploaded screenshots of the emails with names and identifying details of innocent parties redacted, but M. Vance and Elena left clear as day. I included the timestamps, the damning phrases. I don't care if you're riding him right now, get the fuck home. Last night was perfect. Untangle the finances. It was a masterpiece of destruction. Then I created anonymous social media accounts and started sharing the link. I targeted her law firm's page, her alumni groups, the local legal community. I did it all from a coffee shop across town, using the burner laptop and the Wi-Fi. I sent the link to one person directly from my personal phone. Clara. With a text. I'm sorry you have to see this, but you were right, I needed to see her. Her reply was immediate. Oh my God, Liam, I'm coming over. The explosion was faster and more ferocious than I ever imagined. By Sunday morning the site had been shared thousands of times. The comments were a bloodbath. Wow, what a piece of work. Her poor husband. Imagine being this stupid in the digital age. Partners at law firm name must be thrilled. I sat in my office watching the digital firestorm, feeling nothing but a profound, echoing peace. Downstairs I could hear Elena on the phone, her voice a frantic, hysterical shriek. I don't know how it happened! No, of course I didn't post it. Someone hacked me. You have to believe me. Brad? Brad, are you there? Brad. So that was Monsieur Vance. I pictured him, some slick corporate tool, probably already scrubbing his own online presence and distancing himself from the radioactive woman he'd been screwing. Then came the knock at the door. I opened it to find Clara. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her jaw was set with a fierce determination. She walked past me without a word and went straight to the living room where Elena was now slumped on the couch, sobbing. Elena looked up, hope flickering in her wrecked eyes. Clara, thank God, you have to talk to him. Make him see reason. This is crazy. He's ruining my life. Clara stood over her, looking down at her sister with an expression I'd never seen on her face. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment so deep, it looked like sorrow. No, Elena, you ruined your own life. You just used a bulldozer. Liam just showed everyone the wreckage. You're taking his side, Elena screeched, jumping to her feet. I'm your sister, and he's the best man I know, Clara shot back, her voice trembling. You didn't just cheat on him, you lied to him every single day. You used him, you made a fool of him, and you expected him to just take it, to be quiet and let you become a partner and ride off into the sunset with your boyfriend? She shook her head in disbelief. You don't know him at all. Elena looked from Clara to me, standing in the doorway. A horrible understanding dawned on her face. Oh, I see, she spat, her grief turning to venom. I see how it is. You've been waiting for this, haven't you, Clara? My whole life, you were the sweet one, the artistic one, always lurking in my shadow. And now you think you can just slide into my place? Clara flinched as if she'd been slapped. That's not... Don't, I said, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. I walked over and stood beside Clara. Don't you dare try to poison this too. Clara has been more of a partner to me in the last 6 months than you were in the last 6 years. She was here, she saw me, she cared. You were off with Brad. The look on Elena's face was priceless. It was the look of a chess player who just realized they've been in checkmate for 10 moves and never saw it coming. Betrayal, confusion, and a dawning, horrific clarity. She had gambled everything on the assumption that I was weak, that I would be too humiliated to fight back. She had bet on the good, forgiving, loving man she'd married. She forgot that the same man was also an architect, and architects know that the most elegant solution is often to simply remove the rotting beam and let the rest of the structure stand. The divorce was swift and brutal. The leaked emails, now public record, were a dream for my lawyer. Elena's firm put her on indefinite leave pending an investigation into her judgment and professionalism. Brad, it turned out, was a married senior partner at a competing firm. His wife filed for divorce the same week. Their little love nest imploded with the force of a neutron bomb. Elena tried to countersue, to claim defamation, emotional distress, but my lawyer, a grizzled veteran with a fondness for cowboy boots, just laughed. "Son," he'd said, slapping the stack of printed emails on his desk, "this isn't a lawsuit. This is a suicide note. She couldn't win if the judge was her own mother." In the end, she settled for far less than she was entitled to, just to make it all go away. She moved to a different state, a ghost of the woman she'd once been, her reputation in tatters. I heard through the grapevine she was working at a small, obscure firm, doing grunt work. I felt nothing. The clarity I'd found that night in my office remained. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I was in my studio, working on sketches for a new project, a small community arts center. I heard the familiar creak of the floorboard in the hallway. Clara. She appeared in the doorway, a mug of coffee in each hand. She was a permanent fixture now, and it felt more natural than Elena ever had. She set one down on my drafting table, away from the sketches, and leaned against the doorframe, sipping her own. "Still drawing little pictures?" she asked, a soft smile playing on her lips. It was a deliberate echo of Elena's cruel words, but from Clara, it was a term of endearment, an acknowledgement of the passion Elena had mocked. "They're not little," I said, matching her smile. "This one's going to be 40 feet wide." "Show off." We were quiet for a moment, the comfortable silence of two people who understood each other. "The gallery loved your new series, by the way," I said. "The one of the city at dawn." She blushed, a pretty pink rising to her cheeks. "They're just paintings." "They're not just anything," I said, looking at her, really looking. The morning light coming through the window caught the gold in her hair and the warmth in her honey-colored eyes. She wasn't the sharp, polished mahogany of Elena. She was the solid, comforting oak you build a house with. You don't just look at it, you lean on it. She caught my gaze and held it. There was no flinch, no recoil, just an open, honest vulnerability that took my breath away. "And so, Liam," she started, then stopped, looking down at her coffee. "Yeah? I'm not her, you know. I'm not just waiting in the wings. My feelings for you, they're mine. They're real. They started long before all of this, not because of it. And I know you're hurt, and I know you need time, but I needed you to know that." I put my pencil down and walked over to her. I gently took the coffee mug from her hand and set it on a side table. I took her hands in mine. They were warm, soft, and dotted with small spots of paint. "I know," I said, my voice thick with an emotion I couldn't quite name, gratitude, hope, and a terrifying, wonderful sense of beginning. "I think I've known for a while. I was just too busy looking at the wrong picture." I leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't the frantic, desperate passion of a new affair, or the cold, transactional intimacy of a dying marriage. It was a kiss of homecoming, a kiss of two people who had been orbiting each other for years, finally allowed to land. When we broke apart, she was smiling, tears glistening in her eyes. I pulled her close, holding her tight against the chill of the past. The clarity I'd found wasn't just about Elena's betrayal, it was about the profound difference between the life you perform and the life you live. It was about the strength that comes from ashes, and the unexpected grace of finding someone who sees you, not the portrait, not the facade, but you. The real, unguarded, 40 feet wide dreamer you. And for the first time in a very long time, I was home.